everybody. Sorry, I'm just in the nick of time. This is Dominique. I'm looking forward to cooking potato leek soup with you from my dad's native Ireland. He was born there and came over for grad school.
Hold
And
on,
met my
Dominique.
mother.
Dominique,
Yes.
we weren't hearing you. I was like serenading everyone with Irish music up until now. Welcome, everybody.
Thanks so much for coming. Sorry, I came on at the nick of time. Somebody dropped an offer on a property. I'm a realtor like 5 minutes ago. So I had to do a quick update of my sellers and tell them I'd call them when I was done cooking.
Well, that's fantastic news. Splante. How do you say it?
Sláinte.
Oh, sláinte. All right, I'm going to go pour some to celebrate.
Gaelic is not pronounced in any way the way it looks. I am pathetic with it. I've tried to learn it, but it's not sticking. So anyways, we're cooking potato leek soup, a very, very traditional Irish soup. I'm actually cooking it. My Irish cookbook is actually at my house in Ireland, and I'm cooking it out of, it's almost exactly the same recipe out of New Covent Garden Great British soups. They're trying to, claim their little northern part of Ireland. But that's the recipe I provided. The book is in Ireland. But it's really the same recipe, and it's a real comfort soup, perfect for this kind of weird weather that we're having. And I'm looking forward to cooking it with you. So does everybody have, I'm just about to get my butter melting. And does anybody have any questions before we get started? And once we've got everything kind of going, we can chat a little bit about Ireland, or people can tell limericks or whatever they want.
Well, I'm going to ask a question that was posed to me earlier today about leeks. Yes. Somebody was curious about whether a leek is one of those stalks or is a bunch of those stalks.
One leek is one of those stalks. Mine are already chopped, so I can't, but it looks like a gigantic spring onion.
Yeah. And what's your preferred method for cleaning them? Because we've kind of been through a few of them, but you are the real deal. So what's your preferred method?
I find there's always a little dirt. I rinse the outside. I peel off anything that's a little dried up, but I pretty much just, as I'm chopping, if I see there's a little dirt, because of the way they push out of the soil, they often have dirt inside, which is weird. We're not used to that. I just rinse it off as I find it.
Okay.
And Dominique, do you use the green part or just the?
I do. I use the whole thing. As my Irish grandfather drilled into me, waste not, want not. That was the biggest thing I remember from my grandfather.
My favorite way of cleaning leeks is to buy them at Trader Joe's, where that dark green stuff is already cut off, and they're probably 95% clean. So yes, I trim the ends and I make sure underneath there's no dirt, but it is so much easier than dealing with what Cheryl's holding, because that's acid.
Okay, so it's Dominique, to be clear, this is one leek, or is it
one leek? That is one leek.
It's not like one of these things.
No. It's a lot of leeks. Okay. The proportion, it's more like a leek soup with some potatoes to thicken it.
So Cheryl, what you've got there is a fairly large one. Okay.
I have a bunch of small ones that are super dirty, and then I saw this one, and this is,
that one's huge. So I would almost count that as 2 leeks.
Me too.
Yeah.
So Dominique,
Oops, I had a question. Why are we using onions and leeks?
They're sort of a different texture and stuff. So I don't really know, but we always do. I think there's so many things in the onion family. There are, white onions, red onions, yellow onions, leeks, spring onions. There's like the little, little onion, almost like garlic scapes, but there's onion things like that. I don't really know. I think it just adds a depth of flavor. And I think the leeks are more fibrous than regular onions. So that's my guess.
I would like I would like to know, to follow on to your question, Julia, why do we have to slice them thin if we're going to blend the soup?
I don't think
it's really only for cooking time.
Oh, okay.
Same
You
with
can
the
also put-
potatoes. You don't
you
really
put them in your
need
food
to-
processor too.
Exactly. So it's to speed the cooking time.
I'm proud of all of you, because if you remember back 2 years, people wouldn't be so cavalier about how they were going to do it their own way. There was like a desperate desire to ask for the right way. Remember, Dominique? How big should I cut them? And how big should I buy them? And what should I do about this? And now everybody's like, I'm not doing it that way. I do it this way, and I do it that way. And we're such an experienced group of soup chefs. Great job, ladies.
And everybody who's cooked with me knows my mantra is soup is forgiving. If you don't have something, sub something kind of similar like that. I think soup was like, that was the whole point of soup, is you threw in what you had. So don't sweat it. If just estimate.
Do you feel that way even if I tell you that I've got limes but no lemons? Or does that stress you out a bit on this particular soup?
No, I think it's fine. You're not putting that much in. It's just to give it a little acid.
Yeah, okay, good.
And Dominique, at the very end, I would love to know the quantity of salt and pepper. Just ballpark guessing.
I don't think this one calls, yeah, it says salt and white pepper. And for me, it's generally for like a decent sized pot. I use my grinder and I just grind till, I can see a bunch. And salt, it depends. So like if you're using salted broth, you won't need that much salt. I'm using,
Right.
I'm using Better Than Bouillon. It's salty, so I rarely salt much more. So I would start with maybe a half a teaspoon, see what it tastes like, add a little more if it needs a little more salt.
Okay. Yeah, I use Better Than Bouillon too.
Yep. All right, so we're almost at 10 minutes. You don't really want them browning, but you do want them becoming translucent. In a minute, we are going to put in our leeks and let them cook for a little bit as well. And when the leeks are in, we're going to cover it between stirs to let them steam a little. We are not trying to brown here. We're just trying to start the cooking process and pull out a little flavor. And I am going to I didn't finish chopping my potatoes because of my unexpected work development. So I'm going to keep doing that while we chat. Has anybody here been to Ireland? Where were your favorite places in Ireland? Everybody who's been.
Who had their hand up? I think I saw Lisa.
Yep.
I was only in Dublin, but I had a wonderful afternoon tea, a very elegant afternoon tea. I don't know, it's just a great place to walk around, and yeah.
Nice. They love their tea, but I gotta say they love coffee now too. There's great coffee. When I went there when I was a teenager, my parents literally brought instant coffee with them because you could not get coffee in Ireland. Now
I kind of remember they still do sell instant coffee in the shops there, don't they?
they do, but just like here, but like, there's it's not Starbucks, but they have, cafes everywhere now. All right, I'm gonna get my leeks. Go ahead.
It's Kelly Dominique. How are you?
Hi, I'm good.
Quick question about the potatoes.
Yeah.
So the recipe says 5 pounds, like this enormous bag.
Uh-huh.
And I'm guessing you don't really want us to use, I've peeled so far 8 potatoes. It looks like a lot.
Wow.
Oh, I would put that in and then see what it looks like in proportion.
Okay.
And I'm not peeling mine, just
Oh, you're not?
no. I don't peel for potato salad. I don't peel for soup.
I hadn't considered that.
The recipe does not call for it. We're gonna blend it. As my mother used to say, all the vitamins are there.
You know that that's not true. They've done studies. That's not true. Do you know what's there? All the pesticides are there.
Okay, then peel them if you like.
Right. I mean,
But I don't think there's a lot of pesticides on potatoes because they're in the ground.
yeah, all the stuff that it's absorbed is going in, is on the skin. Anything they sprayed when they, because they spray to reduce the generation of the eyes. All of them on the skin. Because I heard the same thing, Dominique. I heard the same thing you did. It's like, oh, you have to eat the skins. That's where all the vitamins are.
Well,
And then
I don't know that.
I read a study. I mean, you can check on it, but
I
it's
believe
probably
you.
been 10 years since I read it, because I was like, oh, how disappointing. Because you grow to like the skins.
Right. I like the skin too. Well, anyways, do what you like. Either way.
Well, that brings me to a question about Irish, I don't know, values or lifestyles. Do they enjoy and therefore kind of honor more, like you had just said, that what your mother had said or your grandmother? And so you're happy to live by that, even though like you already know that the science isn't really there. Like, is that kind of more of a European or an Irish trait? Or do you think that some people do, some people don't?
I think that's kind of everybody.
People like to just kind of go with what they grew up hearing.
What you know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody have their leeks in?
Yeah.
Well, I think anybody who's ready can go ahead and put their potatoes in, and then we can chat a little bit more about Ireland. Let's see, potatoes and stock. So I need to real quick put in my stock, which is my better than bouillon and water. I'm using chicken, but you can certainly use vegetable or whatever you like. I wouldn't use beef because it's going to be very dark.
And really only 4 quarts, huh?
We're going to need more.
Yeah.
I saw that and I was suspect, but I always eyeball it. So.
Okay.
Well, I made my soup this afternoon and used 4 quarts. The consistency was very good because you know me, I follow the directions, at least the first time through. And it made over 7 quarts of soup.
Wow.
So because of the volume of everything else. So you think 5 pounds of potatoes, all those leeks. So it's, and the cream and the milk add to the liquid. So it is.
That's true. We're about to add quite a bit of cream and liquid. So let's stick with it for now. We can always add water at the end if we feel like we need it.
I'm sure somebody's going to ask this in terms of the freezing with milk and cream. And what are your thoughts on coconut milk for this one?
I think the taste would be strange. And sorry, I'm filling water. I don't want to spill it all over my counter. I think it will freeze fine. And we should put a note on it, reheat gently, because it has milk products in it.
Dominique, didn't you redo your kitchen? Have we gotten a tour of your kitchen?
I don't remember if last time we got one, but I'd be happy to give you one. We love it. And even if you did have one, we put in the backsplash since then. So really, really loving it. Okay. Would you like a tour?
Yes.
Let me make sure this isn't something.
All right. So I always had a fantasy of having a mission style kitchen for like 20 years. And our kitchen had been done kind of Home Depot oak cabinets. So, you know, it was fine. And so we redid it. We found an Amish guy in Ohio. I had a wonderful, wonderful architect who we looked at pictures and she designed all the cabinetry for me, all the details. And we have a really nice little breakfast area. I don't know if you can see it there. And my husband, Mike, who you're going to meet soon, helped put in the backsplash. He did all that work. And it's just our dream kitchen. And we love our counter, which is kind of in that mission natural look. And it's just, I even love doing dishes in this kitchen. I hate doing dishes.
And did you have like an open house this weekend? Or you?
No, I'm having an open house next Tuesday from 4 to 7. If anybody's interested, I can drop details in the chat. It is really our lovely Amish cabinet maker would like to move into this area. So it's to introduce him to architects and contractors primarily, but I'm also inviting anybody who wants to come, because I actually had, it was a pretty joyful experience. It's always kind of difficult being without a kitchen, but overall it was a really great experience. So I know some people find it, intimidating. So if anybody is interested in talking about the process, welcome to come. And if you know any builders, contractors who would like to meet a cabinet maker, feel free. And it's also just to thank the architect, the cabinet maker, everybody who helped us with this, because we were just very grateful.
That's awesome. Yeah, maybe if you could put that in the chat, that would be great. And it helps to endure a kitchen renovation when you get to go live in your house in Ireland for a bit, doesn't it?
Yes, that's true. But actually, we were here mostly for the renovation.
Yeah.
Can you guys hold on 1 second?
Yeah. Do you have another deal about to close? That's fantastic.
I'm going to mute you for a sec.
Yeah, go ahead. All right, so if anybody missed it, Dominique is a realtor, and 5 minutes before she was signing on, she got a deal. So that's why she was running a minute late. Anyway, how's everybody's soup doing?
Yes.
Everybody's good? I'm amazed at the amount of leeks in this pot.
I just finished my whatever minutes of, I think I put it in for 18 minutes to simmer. And it really needed the full 20. Like the potatoes weren't as soft as I wanted.
Yeah.
Lisa, you've done it and you found the same thing?
Yes, I found, even though I split mine into 2 pots because I looked at the volume and knew that it would be boiling over very quickly, that the cooking time on all of my steps took longer. And that's probably because the recipe has been tripled or quadrupled. And so the volume that you have in a pot is much more than the original recipe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lisa, having finished it, what are you thinking about the need to use all that cream versus milk? Can we make it a little lighter or just go for it because it's delicious?
I have to say, yeah, you could use more milk, but the cream does lend such a richness and depth of flavor.
Yeah.
So I think that's, the downside of cream is all the fat. The upside is the fat allows it to stay on your tongue and you enjoy the flavors more, I think.
Yeah.
So,
Lisa,
when you spread it out over 8 quarts, it really does equalize. And think about, you've got 4 quarts of water, so that's 16 cups of water.
Yeah.
Or broth. So it's spread out over a larger area. It's not as if you're making just for your family. So
Yeah.
look at it that way.
Okay, thank you. Salma?
Lisa, what kind of cream did you use? Was it heavy cream or half and half?
I used heavy cream because I had some from making chocolate mousse in the fridge. So that came in extremely handy. So.
I am using half and half. And what my question is, Deb, or Lisa, you might have the answer to this. So at this point, my little baby potatoes are finished doing whatever they need to do. And I can't see pouring this cold liquid. The milk has been sitting out for half an hour now, cream with a half and half, whatever. I've got to believe that I've got to cool the soup down before I pour the milk in. Dominique, you're back. Do you have comments on
Hi.
that?
Let me see.
Does it say anything? Maybe I missed it. Cool this down. What does it say?
So I take it off the heat,
Uh-huh.
but I don't actually cool it down a lot, to be honest.
Her mother told her you didn't need to.
I know.
I didn't cool mine down and it worked perfectly fine. I was worried about adding in the lemon juice to the hot.
Right.
I waited until last thing and it didn't do anything funky, weird at all. So it works.
All right, I am off the phone and I'm all yours till 6:30. We need to cook this now that the soup and the potatoes are in there for about 20 minutes. So Deb, do you want me to see if Mike's available to chat about Ireland?
That'd be great. We'd love to hear stories from you two about what life in Ireland is like and what you love about it and what you found fun and different. Yeah, that would be great.
Okay.
Thank
So
you.
I also want to also hear from the other people who went to Ireland, what they enjoyed. So I'll be right back. Let me get Mike.
Sounds good. Salma, what?
So sorry, I realized I didn't mute myself, but I'm making all this noise in the kitchen.
Oh, we didn't, no worries.
Hi, this is my husband, Mike.
Hello,
Hey, Mike, thanks for joining us.
I know some of you.
Salma.
Hi, Salma.
Deb.
Hi, Deb.
Hey.
Hey,
Mike.
There's Cheryl,
Oh, hi. Hi.
Lisa. You may have met.
Hello.
Hi, everybody. So a couple people have been to Ireland. Lisa spent some time in Dublin. Who else has been?
Kelly.
Hi, Kelly. Where have you been? Kelly, where have you been?
Hello.
Hi.
I've not been to Ireland.
Oh, I got confused.
I'm actually Irish and I've not been to Ireland. I was supposed to go twice. I'll tell you my two Ireland stories. I was supposed to go on my 10-year anniversary and Reykjavik erupted like a week before we were supposed to leave. I remember they closed down Europe and all the flights in and out of there. So I got an emerald necklace. 20-year anniversary came, planned the trip back to Ireland for 20 years,
COVID.
Pandemic.
Unbelievable.
So one of these days I will get to Ireland.
So you have.
But I have made potato leek soup quite a few times. And in answer to the question about putting in the cream and milk, I always put it in just cold right out of the refrigerator and it's been totally fine.
Good.
Thank you.
Good, good. Well, Mike is not Irish by descent, but Irish in his heart.
I think I'm honorary Irish at this point.
And actually, he's technically an Irish citizen. So Ireland was
True.
very, very liberal about citizenship. And when you're the child of a person born in Ireland, like I am, you're automatically a citizen. Your children can be registered as foreign births, so they are eligible for citizenship automatically. And at the time we did all this, your spouse, if you've been married for 5 years, was eligible. Unfortunately, they've changed that for the spouse, but Mike got in about a year before they changed that. So we're really lucky. We have Irish passports and have really enjoyed that. But Mike fell in love with Ireland the first time we visited to go to my cousin's wedding to my best friend. And our boys were little and he just loved it. We went back with the kids when they were older and everybody just loved it. So ultimately we bought a house near family you know, to spend more time there. And we try to spend a month there in the summer and try to get there at least one other time.
Mike, what did you fall in love with there?
Wow. Well, it's there's just something magical, first of all. I mean, it just feels enchanted, and it's easy to see where you know, belief in spirits and leprechauns, you know, would come about, and fairies and so forth. The unseen world, it's just like closer to the surface there, it seems. And you could just feel it in the people. There's an ancient culture there that still has, you know, evidence. And I was moved on so many levels. It's unbelievably beautiful. And you're closer to nature. And I think as far as you guys cooking and talking about Ireland, you know, the food there is, they don't grow fruits and vegetables like my native California did, but they get a hold of good fruits and vegetables, and everything just seems a little bit fresher, a little bit more closer to organic. You know, the meat is far superior. The dairy products, unbelievable. So it's a delight for all the senses, really, and I just love it. So.
We always see the cows in the fields, like there's only grass-fed cows in Ireland, like and we're like, they're such happy cows. That must be why the milk tastes good and the meat tastes good. You know, they have a good life while they're living. So we've enjoyed that. We get to watch sheep. The lamb is really, really good. So this is our house. And I don't know if you can see the little sheep.
Yeah.
So a local farmer grazes sheep on our acreage, and it keeps the grass down, and he can, you know, graze his sheep. So we get a lovely little show of sheep when we're there sometimes.
Where is your home located?
It's in the west of Ireland in Kerry.
Okay.
They have a saying, there are two kingdoms, the kingdom of God and the kingdom of Kerry. It's an ancient kingdom.
Kerry, I think you traveled to Ireland, right? Have you been? Where have you been?
We went all over Ireland. We actually rented a car. We stayed. Our home base was Adair, and we had a local pub that we went to, and every night the owner would tell us where to go the next day, and so it was wonderful. I mean, things I remember. Yeah, and we even drove to Dublin one day, and I mean, my favorite places were probably the Dingle Peninsula. That was gorgeous, and also just weird scenery. The Burren was
yes.
It was like a moonscape. It was incredible. And then the rest of Ireland, I've never seen greens like I've seen in Ireland.
Yeah. We look at Dingle from our house, and there's so many beautiful beaches and places to hike. And did you get out to the Blasket Islands?
No.
We took a boat out to the Blaskets. It was amazing. And if anybody's going, I have a kind of Google Doc of our favorite places, mostly in the West, because that's where our heart is and we spend most of our time. And Dublin is lovely. The kids love it, but we tend to get in the car and go straight to Kerry when we go. So
I was in Ireland like 30 some odd years ago. My sister-in-law is from Newbridge. And so my sister-in-law and brother-in-law got married in Ireland. So we were there, and this is like, so also she's from a family of, I lost count. There's gotta be 8 to 10 of siblings. And everybody was so welcoming and warm and everything. We stayed in the days before Airbnb, and sort of not really a bed and breakfast, but somebody in town took us in. And it was just great. Like she, you know, we never knew her before, but she was like straightening my husband's, you know, tie and putting the near, like she wouldn't let him leave to go to the wedding until she was satisfied how he was dressed and everything. So
That's
it was,
cool.
it was just really great. And yeah, so I'm part Irish.
Yes, it's a really, really, really welcoming and hospitable culture. If you stop to ask for directions, like you need a few minutes because they're going to ask you where you've been and where you're going, and they're going to make recommendation. Yeah, exactly. And if you know someone there, there's a good chance they may know them.
The whole country is like a really big small town.
Yeah. When my best friend and my cousin, who's from Ireland, it's his family that we have a house near in Kerry, when they got engaged here, he was here in school and she lived here. My father's sister was back home visiting and she was on a train and she heard the people behind her say, "Did you hear the Farrell boy is marrying an American?" The strangers behind her were talking about them. So
Mike, when you say the whole country, how much, when just talking about Ireland, are we including Northern Ireland, or is that really still considered really a kind of different part of Ireland?
Well, for my purposes, I'm speaking about the Republic of Ireland, so not necessarily Northern Ireland, but it would depend what your context is.
Yeah,
they've existed, kind of with a hard separation for a number of years now, and one's part of the EU, one isn't, and so forth. And but broadly, it's the same geography, the same shared history, and so forth.
In their hearts, are they feeling separated still, or they feel like they're brothers?
That's be hard for me to
say.
Answer personally.
Yeah,
but
I would say they're really more like two different countries. So my grandfather was from the north, and he was a salesman, and I don't know how he ended up meeting my grandmother, but
there's some big differences.
There's some big differences, and they've been separated. I mean, the border was hard until not that long ago. When I visited, when I was a teenager, we went through a military checkpoint to get into Northern Ireland. And that's been one of the big things discussed. The fear about the whole Brexit thing is, how do we reestablish a border without the tensions? Because removing that border really reduced a lot of tensions. But, there's not, tension person to person, but people like the Republic of Ireland is a different country. Do you know what I mean? So I would say probably, but to give you scale, we were looking up populations of Ireland, and like, it's not all that much bigger than DC proper. You know what I mean? Like the whole country.
Wow.
And I often say DC is like a small town. Like, you run into people who know people that here. And, there's not that many more people in all of Ireland. So the Republic. So.
I wanted to ask you, Dominique and Mike, you were talking about just the kindness of people. Is there a particular Irish word that is unique to capture Irish type of kindness, or what have you found is a typically unique Irish way of expressing kindness?
Well, that's an excellent question. I'm sure we can get to the bottom of that in a hurry. Nothing off the top of my head, but the kindness, hospitality, just the sense of woven together community is just big on the landscape there.
Falcha, it's spelled F-A-I-L-T-E. Falcha is welcome. And you cannot pop by somebody's house and drop something off. Like, you better have some time, because they're going to invite you in for tea and you're going to be catching up. So it's really, really generous that way. People are very generous with their time. Our plumber come over to fix something, and we have tea and biscuits, and we sit down and chat. And when somebody dies, like, we arrived last summer and there had been a drowning, and of someone in the community. And we didn't personally know them, but even we knew 5 people that they knew well who were affected. You know, the husband died in a boating accident, and she was in the choir with my cousin's mother, who's also my cousin, and the farmer who grazes sheep on our land grew up and went to school with him, and they were very, very close, and he ended up marrying his sister. And the gentleman who comes and checks our house knew him. The guy who is the kind of handyman contractor who does everything for us, he grew up with him also and was a very good friend. So like the entire community was affected.
So that's a good word. That'd be our best short answer for now, but we can return to that.
Yeah.
Beautiful, thank you. Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Well, thanks for joining us, Mike.
Nice to see all you guys, and happy cooking. I hope you enjoy the rest of your.
Wait, can we pick your brain a little bit more?
Oh, well, sure.
Just a little bit. So if you are talking to some good friends and they say to you, you know, we're going to Ireland, what should we make sure that we don't go home without doing or meeting or seeing, or like, what do you say, Mike? What's the one thing, you know, general, not like a specific thing to a specific person, but basically everyone's got to experience what?
Wow. You know, we're so in love with the part of Ireland where we stay, which is the county of Kerry, and you know, to get out to the west and see some of the rugged landscape, I think that's just the top must do. There's many ways you can get into that. Dublin has so much to offer too. That's really hard to answer because we just beeline it to our little sanctuary, and there we are, and you're just there. It's just taking it all in.
We did a 3-week trip with the kids before we bought our house, and we spent like 3 or 4 days in Dublin. We went to Newgrange, which is that famous Neolithic site. They don't really know who built it, but it has to do with the equinox where the sun comes in during the solstice. And we did, you know, Dublin, it's a lovely, lovely small city with great food. And then we drove straight west and we went to Clare, which is where the Burren is, which we find totally magical. If you go in the kind of early summer, you will see a lot of flowers in with the rocks. And we had a wonderful B&B owner, kind of similar experience that was shared, that he gave us like wonderful driving tour, like these are the musts, you know, and we hit some stuff, and people are very generous with that. And on a recent trip for us, we ran into a couple on a hike we enjoyed, and they said, well, if you like this, you need to go to this other place, Mullaghmore. And they gave us really detailed directions, like you can park on this side little road, you know, and park instead of a long walk from the parking lot. And it was like a highlight of that trip, that hike.
Yeah, put yourself somewhere where you can interact with locals.
Yeah.
The story that was shared, and I'm sorry, I don't recall the name, but that you were invited into someone that you had met in the square in the town center, you know, not exactly a B&B, but, you know, just a connection was made.
Yeah.
We've had tons of little tips like, oh, you have to go down to O'Sullivan's pub tonight because so-and-so, the
famous Ulian Piper,
he's the best in Ireland. And we went, and it's sure enough, and just to write home about amazing music, just because, yeah, they're going to tell you those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And
you just reminded me of something that I loved, in addition to everything else that you're saying. I also really loved that wherever you go, you see intergenerational musicians just hanging out and having fun. And it's such a natural thing for wherever you go, that there's live music, and it's just people bringing their instruments, and they could be way old and they could be way young and they could be males or females or whatever. People are just having fun in such a, whether it's the walking around, the hiking, or the music, or I don't know. I just thought it was so easy to have fun. And, coming from like Trump's America, it was fantastic.
Agreed. Yes, all of that.
Yep. And then, so Kerry, Cork is beautiful. We haven't explored it very much ourselves. That's we have a hard time tearing ourselves away. So we're trying to resolve that every summer we'll take at least a little time to explore different parts of Ireland. The Skellig Islands are amazing. It's what they use them as in the Star Trek movies, but you have to book in advance and it's hard to get a boat out there, but it's a hard hike, but it is spectacular. The Aran Islands are amazing. You went, Deb. They're like a place back in time. They have no cars and, stone walls and thatch roof houses. And
if anybody saw the Banshees of Inisherin in the last few months, that's supposedly takes place there. And time doesn't really work in the same way on those islands. It's fascinating.
Although they don't chop their fingers off in the crazy way that happened in the movie. I was like, wow, that wouldn't really happen. People aren't that rude.
I had like nightmares after that movie.
Yeah.
So we've done some special things like going to the Skellig, Michael, that particular island, and the Aran Islands. But really, you just should get yourself over there. If you haven't been to Ireland, you should say, I haven't been to Ireland yet.
Yes.
And if you have, you should go back.
How much time do you all spend there?
Sorry, what?
How much time do you spend there?
About a month in the summer. And then we try to go back at least once for a couple of weeks.
Oh, that's great.
Sometimes twice when we've been lucky during COVID and could take a little more time off.
And that's the other thing. My main experience of Ireland has been during the COVID era, and we've got a house there, but we got it right at the beginning of the lockdown.
Oh, wow.
All our flights were in, with masks on and stuff. So the whole pub scene and the local music and all of that, which is huge, a huge part of their culture, and it has all that intergenerational. We haven't yet been able to totally take that in because they're not fully post-COVID yet, but we've had tastes of it.
Just starting this summer, it was more normal. Sheepdog demonstrations are amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just fun. It's really quite amazing to watch them work.
Put that on the short list.
Yeah, but just driving around. I mean, the first time we went, it was January. It was cold, it was raining a lot, but just the beauty driving around. It's like, you don't even care that it's raining. It's, so.
Fantastic. It looks like you had RF's attention for a while. I think it looks like maybe Selma and RF are going to have to plan a trip there.
Yeah, that's what he was saying. We're there.
Yeah.
All right, let's check in on the soup. Mike, thank you for
Okay,
joining
guys.
us.
Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
Your potatoes should be pretty soft and almost breaking apart, especially if they're starchier potatoes. I just use some new potatoes. They're not that starchy. So again, it's flexible, but it's just about time to add in seasonings, milk, cream, and lemon juice. So I'm going to wait on my salt till I have everything in there, but I'm going to go ahead and do my pepper. My highly unscientific grind until it seems like the right amount. I'm pouring in milk.
Dominique, it seems to me like a little pepper would be a nice little kick for such a rich and smooth and beautiful soup. Do you agree, or should it? Okay.
I know the pepper is part of the recipe. They say white pepper. I'm just using black. I never use white.
But when we taste it, we should want to have a little kick if we're pepper fans, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And lemon juice. Now, I will say the spring onions are really a garnish, and parsley, but because we're going to pack it up and freeze it, I see no reason not to add them in. Do you know what I mean? They'll just kind of soften up and add some flavor.
Okay, and we're going to use the immersion blender, right?
Absolutely, which is one of my favorite tools. Have I gotten mine out? Not yet.
Well, what do you think about putting the, blending everything and then putting the spring onions in so that that little bit of.
Oh, yes.
in?
I think that is I think what it calls for. Let's see.
Well, because they're saying you're going to use it as a garnish.
You definitely blend first.
Okay, good.
Sorry to not be clear. I was just mentioning because a lot of times we worry about garnishes when we're freezing, but I think this is one we just put in. I have to say, immersion blender changed my life. I love my immersion blender.
And you've already added the milk and cream, right?
I didn't add my lemon juice. I need to do that.
Oh, but you did add the milk already?
I did, and the cream.
And I just bought a quart of half and half. I assume that's fine.
That's totally fine.
Yeah.
Okay, how about just milk and no half and half or no cream?
I think it's fine. I think it'll be a little less rich, but that's fine. So I am putting in my lemon. But if you like soups, I cannot recommend this soup company's cookbooks highly enough. They're all easy and delicious. I had them first. I was visiting my English cousin. My father's brother married an English woman, so their kids grew up there. And I went to visit them, and we had delicious soup first course every night, and then dinner. And I was like, gosh, and they had a whole fridge full of new Covent Garden soups. They're like fresh prepared in boxes. It's fresh. They're not shelf stable. And they were amazing, and they're not available here, obviously. So I bought the cookbooks and I used them and loved them. I'm quite smooth. I like most soups a little chunky, but I do like this soup smooth. But do whatever you like. I probably won't go totally smooth because I'm a bit impatient, but mostly smooth.
Dominique, I have a question while I'm over there blending my soup. It occurs to me, are you, as a realtor here, are you allowed to do real estate there so that when all of us want to buy homes over there, can we use you? No?
Thank you for asking, but there's no such thing as a buyer agent there, which was an interesting process for me buying a house. So we heard about this through a cousin right before it hit the market. And the minute I saw the photos, I booked a flight. And it was funny because the agent, I called her and I said, we're booked for 2 days from now to see it. Is that soon enough? And she said, oh, this is rural Ireland. You have plenty of time. So we got there. We were the first people to see it. Because my cousin knew the owner, we had tea with her and her husband, and it was really lovely. And we immediately knew we wanted to buy the house. So I called her that night, that afternoon, and I said, we'd like to make an offer. How do we do that? And she said, oh, you write an email just with what you want to offer? I'm like, really? And so I did, and I wrote a nice letter to the owner, and she said, the owner's traveling, and we have like 4 other showings that I had booked before you saw it. So we'd like to get through those. And then, she'll respond, but she's happy with your offer. And so I was like, okay. And we wanted to have an inspection before we left because we were only there for just to see the house, basically. So they allowed us to do that. And then she called and the day after we got home and said one of the other people have made an offer that's 20,000 euros over yours. It's like an auction system and it's all just verbal. But they can't take an offer. Like if your offer is all cash, they can't consider another offer that has a loan. Like it has to be like the offer that's in hand. Although you could improve it and become all cash, I guess, but it can't be like less qualified and then bumping up the price. So then we offered another 10 over that. And then someone else came in and offered 10 over ours. And then we offered, I can't remember, I think we offered 10 over. It knocked everybody but one out. Someone else bid 20,000 over ours. And it was getting to the point where we weren't going to be able to do this. And we knew because of the family connection, the owner would like to sell to us. So I said, would you ask her if she would let us match that? We're happy to match the other offer, but we really don't think, we can keep going like this. And she said, well, we don't really do that here, but of course I'll present that to her. She called me back in 10 minutes, said the owner just got back home to London and she was horrified to hear you'd been bid up so much. She wants you to have the house. So she's going to accept your last offer.
Oh, she didn't even make you go back up.
$1,000 on the table just because of honor. Like that's very Irish. Do you know what I mean? Like most people would not do that. And we would have been happy to. We were not expecting her to do that. Wow. And then not only that, we said, of course, we're delighted. But not only that, we said, would you mind? They had a huge, long dining table that seats about 12 people. It's like a big pine table. It's a very common thing. And I had eaten at my cousin's house that had that. They have big families. And we have a big family that would visit. And I said, would you consider selling us that table? And she said, oh my God, I'd be delighted. I didn't know what I was going to do with it. And in fact, we'd be happy to leave almost everything and just take a few, things like that are important pieces to the family. And she said, I was wondering what I was going to do with my father's book collection. He was like the literary editor of the Times, and he was also a writer. I want to take a few books, but I can't absorb the whole thing into my own home. So we got a fully furnished house with dishes, pots and pans, towels, linens, beds, some art. And she didn't charge us for any of it.
Wow.
But the other weird thing about Ireland is then what happens is your lawyer and their lawyer prepare all the paperwork, but it takes like a month. So you put a deposit down, but the buyer is not protected until the contract is drawn up and everybody signs. So if the seller got a better offer, she could have gone with it. We'd get our deposit back. If we walked away, we'd lose our deposit, but we could and lose our deposit. But that was really kind of nerve-wracking. And I would check in from time to time, and the agent said, don't worry, like she took 20,000 less to go with you. She wants to go with you. And later she told me we've become friends, and my brother was looking at a property and she went with me to see it. And she said, I've never had a seller do that. I mean, so it's Irish, but it's not that Irish.
Yeah.
Said, that was really lovely. It was interesting though, because we went to look at this property that was in sort of like a summer town, like that people would go holiday in, and it was a pub and a dance hall. Like they used to have dance halls, and my brother's a musician and was thinking about moving there. And her husband came and he said, we came and we'd holiday here and we would fish in that lake right here. And the parents would be in the dance hall and we would go and check in with them. So like he actually had a personal experience at that place. My brother didn't buy it because it was actually in really bad shape, but it was a fun experience going with them. And they just did that for fun. It was an hour drive and they just came to do it because it would be fun and helpful. Like people are just very generous with their time. So I'm all blended. Mine did not need any salt. The chicken broth salted in enough for my taste. And so the last thing I'm going to do is just stir in some spring onions and parsley.
Can we see how chunky you left yours, or how thin or chunky?
Very little chunk. I mean, it's not smooth, baby smooth, but it's tiny. Can you see that? Whoops. Like tiny chunks here and there.
A little further into the pot. Okay, now let's see. Oh yeah,
there's a big one. I missed that, but you see, it's got a little texture.
Yeah, not much at all. Okay.
And you see, I actually think the skin adds some interest.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to get in there with my thing.
Is this,
yeah, go ahead.
If we eat this cold, is this vichyssoise or however you pronounce it?
You know, I guess it would be, but I've never thought about that.
So maybe we're doing France and Ireland at the same time?
Exactly.
Technically, I don't think it is because I don't think vichyssoise has leeks in it. It's potato soup. It has little chives and little cream, but it doesn't have the leek. So it's a cousin maybe, but French cousin.
I wanted to let people know in the Silver Spring area that I spoke with Rainbow Community Development Center, which is a food assistance provider out in Silver Spring, and they'll be able to start taking our frozen soups. We'll put some information up on the website. I just want to clear all the details and make sure we give good instructions. Are there some people on here that would want to be able to do that? I remember when we had Adventist and New Leaf, we had some people who wanted to go in the Silver Spring area.
Yeah, where is it, Cheryl?
I'll get back to you. I don't have the actual address in front of me, but it's about 5 minutes from the Enclave, where we've done a lot of work with different Afghan families, for anybody who's been helping on that. Let me pull up the address. She said Tech Boulevard, and is it Georgia Avenue or New Hampshire? It's not downtown Silver Spring. It's a little further up.
Is that the program, Cheryl, that we're also doing the summer fun stuff with?
Yes.
Excellent, great.
Industrial Parkway and Tech Road or something like that.
Oh, Tuesday.
But of course, Marge is here and she can tell you her story for bringing things up to the Up County.
Which stories do you want to hear?
All good.
I have good stories. But there are times when it's just a little weird. Like I get there, it's like, oh, I don't know if I have room in the freezer. And one of the guys said to her, why can't we just deliver them today? And she said, oh, okay. I was like, come on. I don't understand the point of keeping things in the freezer. If you bring things, if you're taking things to the Up County to give to people, why would you put it in a freezer? Why wouldn't you just put it in the boxes and bags and whatever and take it out and let it go? So that's an interesting.
I helped out I was going to give you some feedback. I did helped with the distribution that they did at Germantown Elementary School. And I said, where are the soups? And because they didn't have the soups, and they said, oh, people love these soups, they're great. But what they had was stuff that Giant, did I tell you last week? No. They had Giant had donated all this stuff from the deli counter that was expiring that day, or that had already expired and needed to get to people immediately. So they were like, this is what we're doing today because we have to get these out. So I think it's catch as catch can, but they said that people love the soups.
Oh, that's great, because I haven't heard that in a very long time. The person who had this job before the current person was very good about saying, oh, she'd set aside, she had some 90-year-old woman who didn't have teeth, and she'd set aside the pureed soups. She'd always hold one back for that woman, whatever her name was. And, I get sort of nothing from this one. But she does make a point of thanking me, and I think that that's Deb's fault because I think Deb said something about it, and so someone must have said something to her, and she always, every week, thank you very much. Thanks, Marge, always. So that's kind of a nice thing.
We love people who can learn. It's all good.
Yeah, I mean, and last week was a crazy week because last week, it was 2 weeks ago where she made the comment about the freezer, but last week I must have had, gosh, I must have had 70 soups. I mean, I had a whole lot. And, you know it's hard when I bring that many soups, but what are we supposed to do? If she wanted me to, I probably could split it up and come a second time during the week, but
Wow.
yeah, she hasn't suggested that.
Well, in addition to the one that Cheryl told everyone about today, we're also going to have, I think, a location in DC and one up in Rockville signing up in a little bit. So we should have a couple more options coming in the next few weeks. Next week, we're going to be cooking the Thai sweet potato and carrot soup that we all really loved. If you didn't make it with us before, like I think maybe Julie might not have, and maybe one or two others, try it with us next week. It's a delicious soup. I won't be able to tell you much about Thailand, but I bet there'll be some people on, Joyce maybe, who can. So that'll be delicious, if not as informative. But I hope you'll join us. And Dominique, we thank you and Mike so very much. This was so much fun. I just tried my soup and it's delicious. So if I made delicious soup, I know you all did without stressing. So thank you so much, Dominique.
Our pleasure. We love talking about Ireland. My email in the kitchen open house is in the chat. Thanks for reminding me to put the date. And also that's an email. If you want more information on Ireland, I can send you over my Google Doc with our favorite places. So you can.
Dominique. That's great.
Before you all run away, and it looks like I already lost Joyce, who's coming to my house tomorrow other than Lisa and Joyce? Anyone else?
I think I am.
Who was that? You are? Okay.
Ellie.
Okay, by 10 o'clock, please. Okay, before 10. Okay, sounds good.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye. Have a good night.